Her best friend confessed my wife's 30-year secret. She cheated, leave her for me. A 60-plus husband's reckoning and rebuild. The coffee that broke my marriage. I thought the plot twist of my 60s would be a pickleball addiction, not a confession over cappuccinos. I'm Mark, 62. My wife, Dana, 55, is the organized, elegant center of our house. The person who can turn leftovers into dinner and small talk into a friendship. For 30 years I've told people I married my calm. Her best friend since college is Carol, 55, big laugh, bigger opinions, the kind of person who hugs hello and doesn't let go quickly. We've done holidays together, lake weekends, even a disastrous couples cooking class where she set a towel on fire and joked she was hot for danger. A month ago, Carol asked to meet me, just us. She didn't look dangerous. Navy sweater, neat hair, steady eyes. We sat down, and before I could ask about her grandkids, she said, "Mark, please don't be angry, but Dana cheated on you in her 20s. More than once." She put her hand over mine like a nurse delivering news. "You deserve better. You deserve someone who has loved you the whole time." Then she looked at me in a way that turned the coffee hot again. "I should have told you years ago. If you divorced, I would be honored to build something honest with you." Plot twist. The accusation and the proposal arrived in the same sentence. I didn't make a scene. I asked, "What proof?" Carol had it ready, a blurry Polaroid of a lake cabin nightstand with a man's watch that wasn't mine, a bar receipt from a town Dana once called a work trip, and a ripped diary page zoomed on the words, "I messed up. Not sure how to face Mark." Carol said there was a singer in a local band and a conference that was just a weekend away. She folded my hand tighter. "I kept quiet to protect you. I can't anymore." I walked home feeling like the sidewalk had tilted 5 degrees. 30 years is a lot of furniture to slide when the floor moves. Here's where I admit I've always been a steady man. Retired engineering manager, 2 adult kids, Evan 28, Julia 26, a garden that refuses to respect my edges. Our marriage has had the usual dents, mortgages, layoffs, aging parents, but nothing I'd ever call a crack. If there were early gray years, I filed them under youthful chaos and focused on the life we actually lived. Pancake Saturdays, college tours, Dana's habit of humming when she watered the ferns. First signs I missed? Dana and Carol's one-year mysterious rift around our engagement. A college shoebox labeled "Do Not Toss" that Dana always packed herself. A postcard from a lakeside town that made her change the subject. At the time I called it romance fog. Now it felt like smoke I hadn't noticed from a fire I didn't know to look for. I didn't confront Dana that night. I did what engineers do. I made a timeline. I pulled down the old banker boxes, dug out the calendars, airline statements, and yes, the dusty camcorder bag from the garage. I told myself I was being ridiculous. I also started a folder on my laptop called Verify. Because if this was going to hurt, it would at least be accurate. Carol texted before bed, "You don't have to sleep in a lie." Polite words, pointed message. I stared at the screen until it went dark, then lay next to the woman I've loved for 3 decades and listened to her breathe, wondering which decade I was in. I started with the shoebox Dana always packed herself. It lived on the top closet shelf behind winter scarves, labeled in her tidy script, "College memories, do not toss." I set it on the bed like it might hum. Inside, ticket stubs, Polaroids of sunburned kids I'd never met, a dried corsage, and a thin leather diary wrapped in ribbon. Part of me felt like a thief. Another part felt like the person no one warned. The diary wasn't a tell-all. Most pages were sweet chaos. Roommates, exams, a professor she thought looked like a movie star. Then April of the year we got engaged. The handwriting slanted. We drove to the lake after the show. I said it was goodbye. It wasn't. I am the kind of person who hurts good people. No name, just an initial, R. The camcorder tape came last, buried under wrapping paper. Our kids once used the camera to film school plays. I hadn't touched the thing since flip phones. I charged it, fed the tape in, and watched a parade of birthdays and Halloween costumes. Then the picture jumped and settled on a bonfire at a lake. Someone panned across faces. Young Dana in a denim jacket, Carol behind her making peace signs, a guy with a guitar the camera liked a little too much. The lens found Dana again. She tilted toward guitar like a magnet. Nothing explicit, but the kind of closeness that comes from rehearsal, not accident. Her hand sliding along his shoulder as she leaned in to hear him. His mouth near her ear, not quite touching, their smiles private. When he sang quietly to her, the camera, whoever was holding it, didn't move for a full minute. The flames threw light, she closed her eyes and swayed. If you told me it was innocence I might have believed you, until the camera jolted and caught them slipping toward the dock, her fingers woven with his. The tape cut out. Whoever filmed it either had mercy or orders. I paused it there and stared at my older hands reflected in the black screen. I wasn't jealous of youth, I was jealous of context. What else lived around that minute? I checked calendars. The work trip to Lakeshore Falls, the month we put a deposit on our venue. I checked a credit card statement as old as our daughter. A bar called the Beacon with a bill for 2 days after that lake weekend. I printed nothing, saved everything, and tried to breathe. I called Carol. R is who? I asked. She exhaled like she'd been waiting. Reed. Local singer. Brief, messy. She was scared you'd cancel the wedding. Why tell me now? I asked because politeness is not the same as trust. I'm tired of watching you adore someone who, she stopped. You deserve facts. And yes, Mark, I care about you. She didn't say instead of Dana. She didn't have to. That night, Dana breezed in from yoga, hair damp, humming like always. She kissed my cheek. Citrus lotion, clean laundry. Familiar. I could have let the night stay ordinary. Instead I said, do you remember the Beacon? Lakeshore Falls? The name landed between us like a key. Her eyes flicked away, then back with a smile too bright. From forever ago? We went with friends. Why? I clicked the camcorder on. Dana at the fire. The guitar. The dock. She stopped humming. Who gave you that? She asked, voice even. Your box did, I said. She laughed once, sharp, not amused. College was chaos, Mark. Everyone made mistakes. You're really going to punish me for being 22? I'm asking you to tell me what 22 means, I said. My hands were steady, my heart wasn't. She walked to me, soft hands on my shoulders, voice low like mercy. It was a kiss. It was a night. I came home and chose you. I've chosen you every day since. Her eyes shone. Then a hitch. Carol is poisoning you. She always wanted what I have. There was another twist. Was I reading a love story, a betrayal, or a rivalry with me in the middle like furniture? Then let's put poison on paper, I said. Tell me everything. Please. Dana's mouth pressed thin. She nodded once. Tomorrow, she said. I'll tell you tomorrow. Then she slid to her knees, took my hands and whispered, don't let one bad chapter erase the book. I wanted to believe her so badly it hurt. Tomorrow suddenly felt like a year. Tomorrow, she'd said. Tomorrow arrived with muffins and no confession. Dana set a blueberry on my plate like a peace treaty. Later today, she promised, peck on my temple, eyes bright the way people make them when they want light to be contagious. Then errands sprouted, bank, florist for our granddaughter's recital bouquet, a quick stop at the studio. Tomorrow became dusk. Dusk became, it's been a long day, Mark. Can we not? I'm old enough to know delays are decisions. I brewed tea and waited anyway. At 9 my phone buzzed. Carol, if she stalls you deserve the whole picture. A PDF slid in, scans of an old letter on lined paper, edges scalloped from a spiral notebook. D, you said goodbyes at the dock and still came back. I'm trying to be decent. You glow when you say his name. That's why I'm leaving town. Keep the song. R. Below it a flyer, Reed Mallory farewell set, Beacon Bar, June 18th. The date was 6 weeks before our wedding. I walked the pages to the den. Dana followed, arms folded, chin parked on pride. I set the letter down between us. Is this the kiss? I asked gently. She read it once, twice, as if repetition could change nouns. A practiced smile slid on. So, poets exaggerate. He wanted drama. She tapped the flyer. Everyone had a farewell show. What did you tell him at the dock? I asked. She met my eyes, then lost them. That I loved you. Only that. Silence, then a soft, bell-clear pivot. She came close, palms on my chest, the scent of her lotion suddenly loud. Mark, you and I have built a life. You hold my cold feet in bed. You remember where I left my glasses. You fixed my mother's railing when no one else would. Don't feed a bonfire 25 years later. Her mouth found mine, warm, familiar, a kiss you can set a watch by. She leaned her forehead to mine. Please. When I didn't answer, she sank to her knees, hands at my waist like a vow, eyes shining. I am begging you. Before I could pull her up, the doorbell chimed. 9:40 p.m. We both froze. I opened it to a man shaped like a former song, gray at the temples, guitar case in hand. You must be Mark, he said, polite as a handshake. I'm Reed. Dana's breath left her body like the room had been punched. Why are you here? She whispered, anger chasing fear. Reed held up both palms. Because I'm moving back to take care of my sister. Carol said you deserved to ask me, not guess. He looked at me, not past me. We were foolish. I left because she chose you. That's the truth. Dana shot to her feet. You don't get to narrate my history, she snapped. Then, softer to me, a new script. I was young. It was brief. I was scared. I fixed it. Can we please, keep our home intact? I asked Reed one question. Did you see her after the beacon? His jaw worked. Twice. Once to end it for real. What? I thought it was the same, but it was me saying goodbye. He looked small telling it. Dana's anger sparked. He's performing, she said. He always has. I called our son Lucas and our daughter Amy to come by in the morning. If a story insists on being public, let family be the audience. That night, sleep was a strange country. In bed I kept space between us without making a border. Around 2, Dana shifted close, placed my hand flat over her heart like a pledge. Her skin was warm, steady. My hand shook anyway. At breakfast, my mother, 84 and surgical with truth, arrived armed with cinnamon rolls and a stare. Dana's sister, Megan, breezed in late with a bouquet and a speech about nostalgia being just ambitious memory. Reed sat quiet. Carol parked herself between cinnamon and courage. I set the letter on the table. We tell it once, I said. All of it. Dana's jaw lifted, eyes bright with a new storm. Fine, she said. But if we open the vault, we open everyone's. That's when Megan went pale, Carol stiffened, and Reed stared at his hands like they were sheet music he didn't want to read. The skeletons in our family didn't rattle. They walked in and took seats. We started with the easy hard part. Dates. Carol slid the flyer closer, voice steady. Reed's farewell set was June 18th. Dana, you and I packed your apartment the next day. You cried into my denim jacket until the bus left. Dana gave a practiced laugh. I cried because the lease ended and the radiator hissed like a snake. Don't make poetry into confession. My mother, Lorraine, cut her cinnamon roll with surgeon calm. Child, there's a difference between nostalgia and revision. Let's mind it. Reed cleared his throat. Beacon was the end. Mostly. A week later she met me at the marina to return a ring. He stopped, eyes flicking to me. A ring? I asked. Dana's shoulders tensed like a pulled bowstring. Not an engagement, Reed rushed. A silver band, stupid and skinny. We were 22 and dramatic. She said she couldn't wear 2 futures at once. He reached into the guitar case, pulled an old velvet pouch and tipped a tarnished band into his palm. The room seemed to lean. Dana went on offense. And you brought props? Are we staging a play? She turned to me, voice honey and heat. I didn't say yes to that ring, Mark. I said yes to you. My son, Lucas, rubbed his temples. Mom, did you two overlap? Plain, clean question from a math teacher who hates fuzzy numbers. Dana breathed in out. I kissed goodbye longer than I should have. That's it. Then, as if yanked by an invisible thread, she dropped to her knees beside my chair, palms up, voice thin. Mark, I was young. I was unkind to the calendar. But I married you, I stayed, I built this life. Please don't let an old almost blow up the home we actually made. Before I could answer, Megan blurted, Fine, my turn, and put both hands on the table like she was steadying a ship. Carol wasn't just a witness. She was in love with Mark too, then. She wrote me about it. I told her to keep quiet because Dana was already complicated. There. She exhaled. Vault open. Carol's face flushed, not with shame so much as old truth stepping into daylight. I told Dana I had a crush on you the night before you proposed, she said gently to me. She said, and I quote, Don't worry, I won't keep him if something better sings. I thought she was being ironic. I told myself that. Dana's chin lifted. Private jokes. I was 21 and allergic to dullness. She flicked her gaze at me. You were never dull, Mark. You were ballast. I needed that. I still do. My mother set down her fork. Ballast keeps ships from flipping, she said. Folks like being upright. Reed's phone buzzed, he silenced it. Look, I didn't come to shatter anything. Carol said secrets rot families from the inside. I don't want rot on my conscience. He slid the ring pouch toward me like evidence and apology. Take it if it helps you measure the truth. I didn't touch it. Measure comes after all units are on the table, I said, surprising myself with the steadiness of my own voice. Dana, one more thing. Why did you and Reed meet again the month after our wedding? Head snapped. Dana's eyes went broad. How? Photo, I said and showed my phone. Carol had included a grainy but unmistakable snap from her scanned folder. Reed at a cafe, Dana's scarf in the frame corner, the date stamped on the back. says August. 2 months into our marriage. Dana's face did 3 expressions in a second: fury, calculation, performance. He returned lyrics, she said quickly. Old notebooks. We met in daylight. I didn't tell you because I didn't want a shadow at our breakfast table. She looked around, voice heating. Everyone acts like I ran off to a hotel. I met an ex in a cafe. Memoirs are built out of worse. That's when Lucas, usually diplomatic to a fault, lost the teacher tone. Mom, you asked Dad to build you bookshelves the same week you were sipping coffee with Reed. You asked him to be your ballast while you kept a lifeboat tied to a different dock. Do you see why that stings? Dana's eyes filled. She slid to her knees again, 3rd time in 24 hours, palms up, mascara unspooling. I am sorry, she whispered, reaching for my hands. I let old music hum too long. I chose glitter over the gold that actually held. Across the table, Megan flinched. Don't, she said quietly. Don't use my sister's old lines now. The room went pin-drop still. My mother stood 84 and unshakable. Enough kneeling, she said, not unkind. We'll hear the rest this afternoon. And Mark, she touched my shoulder. Eat something. Nobody decides a life on an empty plate. After they left, the house felt tall. I put the ring pouch in a drawer I wasn't sure how to name. Dana stood at the sink, hands braced on porcelain, eyes closed. Tell me what you need, she said softly. Tomorrow, I answered and realized I meant it differently this time. Not delay. Decision. That evening I did what engineers do when the rivets start singing. I made a ledger. A yellow pad for columns: date, claim, evidence, gap. It felt clinical and a little absurd, but order was the only rope I trusted. Carol knocked around 9 with a shoebox and 2 mugs of peppermint tea. You okay to open more? She asked. I nodded and she set the box on the table like it might purr or bite. Inside, a handful of postcards, a cafe receipt, a folded flyer for a songwriter workshop dated the month after our wedding. The top postcard was from Paris. No message, just a lipstick print and R in the corner. Postmark August of that year. I wrote it into the ledger. Date August. Claim, cafe goodbye. Evidence, Paris card. Gap, why the stamp if it was local? My hands were steady, my chest wasn't. Before you villainize her, Carol said carefully, remember that Reed chased drama like oxygen. He mailed people memories to keep the feeling alive. She showed me that card and said she'd made a line. Her gaze met mine. She also didn't tell you. Both can be true. 10 minutes later, Reed texted, can we speak man to man? We met on my porch, 2 coffee cups between us like a neutral zone. He looked more tired than dangerous. I need to clean one more corner, he said. 5 years into your marriage, Dana came to a conference I played in Chicago. She stayed in the hotel bar, not my room. We walked by the river. I kissed her cheek. She cried and said she was done. That's the last time I tried to turn a ghost into a house. He rubbed his face. I know how this sounds. I'm not asking for absolution, just accurate minutes. I added it to the ledger. Date year 5. Claim, nothing happened. Evidence, his admission, no proof of more. Gap, a river and a heart I didn't own then. Inside, Lucas hovered with a dish towel like it could absorb consequence. Dad, he said quietly, if you need me to leave so you two can work this, I will. But I'm here if you want to ask hard things. The hard thing had a shape I hated. Have you ever wondered? I started, and he saved me by nodding before I said paternity out loud. I did the math once, he admitted, cheeks coloring. Then I hated myself for doing it. If you want to test, I won't be offended. You're my dad either way. I gripped the island edge until the wood steadied. We'll decide that together, I said. Not tonight. When Dana came home from air, as she called her evening drives, she clocked the ledger and the open box. Anger flared first. What is this, an audit? She snapped. Then she saw the Paris card and folded like a paper crane gone soft. Knees again. Palms up again. I was chased by a song, not a man, she whispered. I mailed the card back unaddressed. The boomeranged. I hid it so we could be simple. She looked up, mascara shining. Please stop treating me like a suspect. I'm your wife. Wives tell, I said, keeping my voice gentle. Suspects perform. She flinched, then straightened, the brazen switch back on. Fine. You want radical honesty? I loved how Reed looked at me when the lights hit, and I loved how you looked at me when the lights were off and the dishwasher was humming. I kept both in my pocket too long. Her chin lifted. But I chose this house. I chose you. Then help me believe it, I said. All of it. Timelines. Names. No poetry. I slid a pen across the table. She stared at it like it was a test she hadn't studied for, then pushed it back and slid off the chair to her knees one more time. Can I choose us without a spreadsheet? She pleaded. Can I choose us with my hands on your shoulders and my word in your ear? Out on the porch, my mother's porch light flicked on like a benediction or a warning. I looked at Dana's open hands and thought, tomorrow was arriving whether we wrote it down or not. By morning my house felt like a waiting room. The ledger sat patient on the table, the Paris card face down like it needed darkness. I made oatmeal because my hands needed a task. Dana came into the kitchen in my old college sweatshirt, face scrubbed, eyes swollen. She reached for my wrist. I set 2 bowls down between us like traffic cones. I called Mom, she said too casually. She's coming. Translation, reinforcements. Carol arrived first, then my parents. Mom with a casserole like it could fix gravity, Dad with a tool bag he didn't need. 10 minutes later, Marilyn swept in, floral perfume and an opinion already shaped. This is performative, my mother-in-law announced, gesturing at the ledger. Marriage is not a courtroom. Courtrooms have records, Mom replied calmly. They keep people honest. Dana shot me a look. You did this? I took a breath. We're not voting on a verdict. We're collecting minutes. Marilyn went brazen. Fine. Minutes? Reed had a crush. Dana said no. You're humiliating my daughter because you like lists. She turned on Carol. And you, stirring ghosts for attention? Carol didn't blink. I stirred truth because it was choking her. Reed texted that he was 2 blocks away if we wanted him present. I told him to stay clear, one bonfire at a time. I laid out the sequence, the roommate kiss, the cafe scene, the Chicago walk, the card. I didn't dramatize, just read the columns. Dana paced, then dropped, knees to hardwood, palms up, voice trembling. I made mistakes, she said. I'm not a mistake. I'll spend the rest of my life showing him that. Please stop turning me into a headline. Marilyn knelt beside her like a coach. Tell him the part about the ring, she urged. Dana's eyes flicked to mine. I turned my ring inward that summer, she confessed, voice thin. Not to hide you because the band kept snagging on guitar strings. It looked like hiding. I kept it that way longer than I should have. I liked the high freedom. Then I hated myself. She swallowed. You deserve the version of me that didn't need a stage. Dad cleared his throat. Deserving and getting ain't twins, he said gently. What's the plan, son? I looked at Lucas. He nodded. Say it. 2 tracks, I said. First, truth. Dana writes the full timeline and hands me every password. Second piece. We pause the marriage, separate rooms, counseling, until her actions match her promises. No more performances on rugs. No more audience. Marilyn bristled. Separate rooms? You'll break the bond. It's already bent, Mom said, setting down her fork. This gives it a splint. Dana went from tears to anger so fast the air cracked. You want to manage me with spreadsheets and curfews? She snapped. I'm your wife, not an intern. Then the switch again, soft, urgent. She slid closer on her knees, took my hands. Please, Noah. I will be boring for you. Holy even. I'll delete the past. I'll delete myself if you want. Just don't end us. I don't want holy, I said quietly. I want honest. Silence held. Then Lucas, voice careful, there's one more thing we should settle. Marilyn flared. Absolutely not. Dana closed her eyes. Let him ask, she whispered. I kept my tone steady. I'd like a paternity test for me and Lucas. Not because love needs it. Because lawyers do when families go sideways. My hands shook. I kept them flat on the table. Lucas nodded. Whatever gives you oxygen, Dad. Marilyn hissed, insulting, but Dana raised a hand. We'll do it, she said, surprising us all. I won't have this hang over him like a shadow I made. I wrote the next line in the ledger. Decision, temporary separation, timeline due Friday, counseling Mondays, DNA Tuesday. Dana stood, took one faltering step toward me, then stopped herself from kneeling again. Can I? She started, then changed it. I'll send the timeline by 10. If I beg, it'll be in paragraphs. A ghost of humor. A truce with dignity. After everyone left, Dad pretended to tighten a hinge, then squeezed my shoulder. Build something today, he said. Even if it's small. Your hands know the way out. At 9:58 p.m. my inbox chimed. Subject line, full timeline, no poetry. Dana had attached a PDF, phone logs, 3 scanned journal pages, and 2 photos I didn't know existed. I stared at the send time. She'd left herself 2 minutes to change her mind and didn't. I read slow. Freshman year, The Study Kiss with Reed. Sophomore winter, Late Night Harmonies, that she labeled emotional affair, swore there was no physical line. Summer in Chicago, The Rainy Walk, The Ring Turned Inward, a hug outside the bookstore that lasted too long. Senior spring, a promoter took an interest. Dana signed a tiny NDA after party coaching, got unprofessional. She wrote, I froze, left, and then pretended I'd been brave. She included an email from the promoter's assistant, proof of a complaint she never sent. After graduation, nothing with Reed for years, a single lunch at a reunion she swore she'd scheduled to say a clean goodbye. I wore the ring bright outside. He said he was happy for me. I wanted that to be true. Then came the part that made my ribs tighten. 3 months into our marriage, she reactivated an old inbox to delete college messages. She kept 2, one from Carol titled Please Don't Burn What's Good, another from Reed labeled Closure and never opened. She attached a screen recording of her deleting it last week. Cosmetic? Maybe. But at least it was daylight. The photos were the surprise. One was from the Chicago summer, Dana on a park bench with short hair and a sad smile I hadn't met yet. The other was our honeymoon, candid and warm. Under it she typed, I picked the right life and spent years letting the wrong story audition. I'm sorry. Tuesday's test was gentler than the anticipation. The tech was kind, the swabs quick. Lucas joked about his fantasy team to fill the nerves. Dana sat very straight, hands folded like she was in a quiet church, then reached for mine, stopped, and folded them again. On the walk to the parking lot she said softly, Thank you for not making this ugly. I answered honestly, I'm trying to make it true. That night Dana slid the spare room door shut and texted from 10 feet away, Counseling booked for Monday. Do you want tea? I replied, yes. She brought it in without stepping over the threshold, placed it on the dresser like a peace offering and left. Small, careful human. Sleep didn't come. I took Dad's advice and built something, a simple maple shelf in the garage. Measuring, planing, sanding. The rhythm quieted the noise. When the edge finally sat flush against the wall, the click felt like a heartbeat finding tempo. At 7 a.m., Carol knocked with bagels and a folded letter. Housekeeping from the past, she said. Inside was her senior year email to Dana that I hadn't read until now. You can be the main character without burning the set. She'd CC'd herself back then. I wanted today you to have a clean copy, she said, eyes bright but steady. Results landed Thursday at 4:12 p.m. I opened the portal with hands that had no grip left. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. I exhaled a full year of air. I forwarded the result to Dana and Lucas, then sat in the quiet until my phone buzzed. Lucas knew it. Love you, Dad. Dana. Thank you for trusting the science when I hadn't earned the trust. I typed, deleted, typed again. This changes the oxygen, not the ledger. Keep going. A minute passed. Dana replied, I know. I'm still on my knees. I'll use paragraphs. Monday came with the kind of quiet that makes clocks sound loud. Dana and I met the counselor in a sunlit room with too many tissues and just enough chairs. Dr. Sue started with ground rules. Facts over theater, I statements, no rewriting the past mid-sentence. Dana nodded fast, then spoke slow. I was careless with attention and then careful with the truth, she said. Not lying felt like a virtue, withholding felt like a compromise. Both were selfish. It was the most direct thing I've heard in months. Dr. Sue asked me what hurt most. I surprised myself. It's not the headline, I said. It's the footnotes, the secret inbox, the ring turned in, the way I got recast as safe when I was trying to be steady. She said, name a boundary. I had one ready, no more private channels. Shared calendars stay live. If a story needs a closet, it doesn't belong in our house. Dana said yes without flinching. That was new. On day 2 the other shoe dropped. Money? My bookkeeper flagged 2 old checks to event consulting. Stale dated, never cashed, quietly voided, then reissued to Dana's maestro from senior year through a foundation that turned out to be a single P.O. box. I forwarded everything to our estate attorney Merritt with a single line, please audit. It felt like revenge without heat, just housekeeping with a flashlight. That night Dana tried her old shortcut, charm. You were always the grown-up, she said, fingers grazing my sleeve. You make order. I make light. In the past I might have melted. Instead I pointed at the spreadsheet on the island. Light doesn't need a burner phone. She flushed, then did the thing she does when she's out of moves, knees, palms up, forehead bowed. I am sorry, she said, voice small, not performative. Tell me where to mop. I handed her the stack of account closures and donor letters that cut off the P.O. box. Mop met bucket. My family stayed exactly who they've always been. Mom dropped off soup and a post-it that said eat, then decide. Dad sent a photo of a perfect dovetail with the caption, patience looks like this. Carol, for the first time in decades, kept a polite distance, then texted, I'll show up where you point me. Or not at all if that's kinder. Dana's side spun a little. Her sister Valerie called to say I was obsessed with details and should let the past be vintage. I said details are how you tell a bridge from a mirage. Her brother sent a voice note that began, you know artists, and never found a period. I pressed save and did nothing. Not every pitch needs a swing. With the paternity result cooling my pulse, the house felt breathable. I kept making shelves. The maple one became 2, then 3. I'm not fast, but repetition is its own medicine. Lucas came by with takeout and a crooked grin. So, you're building a library? I said I was building a place for things that tell the truth about what they hold. Merritt's audit came back on Thursday. No ongoing siphon, just 2 embarrassing consulting honoraria from years ago, both refunded now that the paper trail had light on it. We drafted a short, firm letter to the maestro's attorney. Cease any contact. Any archival materials belong to Dana or the university. Future communication through counsel. Administrative boundaries are not poetic, but they stack like bricks. That evening, Dana stood in the doorway, took a breath, and didn't reach for a performance. I know I don't get to ask, she said, but if there's a small place at the edge of your day where I can do a useful thing, point me. I handed her sandpaper. Edges, I said. We stood there, shoulder to shoulder, turning a rough board into something that didn't snag. It wasn't forgiveness. It was work. And for the first time in a long time, work felt like oxygen. We brought the kids in first. Jenna, 34, arrived with a casserole and a pen. Miles, 31, brought his quiet. I told them straight, your mother had an old affair. It ended long before you, and you are, without a doubt, mine. We are doing the dull work of cleaning it up. Jenna asked the engineer's question. What's the plan? And Miles asked the human one, are you okay? I said yes to both, which was half true and getting truer. Merritt drafted what Dr. Sue called a paper fence. A post-nup that moved the house and my workshop into a trust, locked college funds, and routed any unusual payments through a second signature. No romance in it, just rails. Dana read every line, didn't haggle, and signed with hands that didn't shake. If I fail again, it won't be for lack of guardrails, she said. I didn't answer. Not every moment needs my commentary. Then came the hard call. Carol asked to meet at the lake. She wore the same college sweatshirt, faded now, and the same stubborn hope. You deserved a woman who never made you doubt, she said. I can be that. It would have been so easy to step into the story where I'm finally chosen loudly. I thanked her for telling me the truth when it mattered, for loving our family in her sideways way, and then I said the sentence I didn't know I had in me, grief isn't a marriage proposal. Her eyes glassed, she nodded once. We hugged like old teammates and let that be the last scene of that almost. Dana's family did their weather. Valerie posted a long caption about growth, with an out-of-context wedding photo. Her brother sent a link to a reunion concert the maestro was headlining in the fall, plus a winking emoji. I archived both and went back to sanding. My parents kept their pace. Mom left a Tupperware labeled for after the hard conversation. Dad texted a photo of a straight edge with the caption, still true. We staged one more meeting, both families, small plates, big air. No slideshows this time. Dana stood up first. I traded comfort for applause, she said, voice level. It was my choice. The consequences are mine. Please keep loving our children and stop writing speeches about me on the internet. Darlene opened her mouth and closed it. That counted as progress. The next morning I made a list titled Keep/Try. Keep, morning walks, maple shelves, phone-free dinners. Try, choir baritone auditions Thursday, a weekend train to the coast, writing down one sentence a day that is only true. On the way to the lumberyard, Dana asked if there was room in the try column for her. There's room in the calendar, I said. The rest gets earned, not granted. At dusk we installed the first finished shelf. It sat level, didn't argue with gravity. Dana handed me the screws and didn't reach for the punchline. In the quiet afterward, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not forgiveness exactly, but a clearing, space where a life could stand without pretending. 6 months after the lake, life looks ordinary in the way I used to take for granted. That's not a downgrade, that's the prize. The post-nup sits in a drawer I rarely open. The trust owns the house and my shop. The kids' funds are padlocked. My calendar has therapy and choir inked in like oil changes. The maestro sent a handwritten note. Florid apology, too many adjectives. I didn't reply. His concert passed through town. I spent that evening planing walnut and listening to the ballgame on AM radio, which is a better kind of music for mending. Dana kept her side of the rails. No secret devices, no cash that can't explain itself, no rooms with old ghosts. She stopped performing apologies and started showing up. Early to therapy, on time to dinner, late only to punchlines. The begging and dramatics vanished with the audience she'd been playing to. Sometimes she still reaches for the old script. Do you love me yet? And I hand her a clean dish towel or a grocery list and say, let's keep doing the next right thing. We are not back to shiny. We are back to honest days. I don't wake to the vertigo anymore. Carol met someone, a widower from her church who makes sourdough and rescues gray-faced dogs. She mailed me a photo of 2 loaves and a lopsided terrier, plus a sticky note. Right story, right time. I stuck it on the shop corkboard next to Dad's still true. My parents, still sturdy, finally let me return the favor. I fixed their sagging pantry shelves and swapped the squealing hinges. Dad pretended to supervise. Mom pretended not to cry when I sang bass at church with the community choir. Jenna and Miles come by for Sunday pasta. They know more than I wanted them to and less than they feared. That balance feels right. Some days grief taps my shoulder. A song Dana once warmed to, a campus flyer with a conductor's photograph from the decade I didn't know about, the smell of rain on the old quad. On those days I go to the shop. Wood tells the truth, what you cut off is gone, what you keep you must care for. I build frames that don't warp and shelves that don't complain under weight. Work steadies thought. If you're reading this because a friend came to your porch with a confession sharpened by years, here's what I wish someone had handed me on one page. Get the boring facts, timelines, bank records, device lists. Paper is a calmer judge than adrenaline. Draw paper fences. Trusts, postnups, budgets with 2 signatures. Boundaries aren't punishment. They're handrails on ice that don't outsource your dignity to a performance. Weeping, kneeling, grand gestures. Look for changed patterns, not volume. Tell the truth to your grown children at the altitude they can handle. Protect their origin story without editing reality. Choose exits over explosions. Lawyers, therapists, locks, not speeches you'll regret. Keep a craft, wood, garden, choir, anything that uses your hands and breath. Craft is grief's natural predator. Let forgiveness be a season, not a rule. You can stay and still keep your spine. Am I happier? Different question. I am steadier. We eat at the same table, on chairs that don't wobble, under shelves that sit level. Some nights Dana hums in the kitchen and my chest does not seize. Other nights I take my book to the porch and let the cicadas be the only noise. Both count. Last week I finished a frame for an old family photo. Me and Dana on the day we signed for the starter house, sawdust on my shoulder, sun in her hair, nothing foreshadowing anything, just 2 people in bright ignorance. I hung it in the hall right beside a newer picture. Jenna laughing, Miles talking with his hands, Dana mid-eye roll, me holding a crooked candle because I can fix shelves but not candles. Between those 2 frames is the hallway of our actual life, scuffed, aired out, walkable. If you need a benediction from a man with sawdust in his cuffs, you can survive the truth. You can require rails. You can love again, this person or another, without erasing the chapter where you learned to measure twice. And when your shelf sits level you'll hear it in your bones. Click, still true. I have many other stories. Go to my channel, subscribe so you don't lose us. Give me a thumbs up.